for everything bad that happens doesn't give an opportunity for something good, but an opportunity for something great to happen. You just have to find out what it is.
From a hangar somewhere near the flight line, this is the Future in Flight podcast. I'm your host, Sean Starker. Today on the show, we're exploring what it means to pioneer a path in aviation when there's no roadmap to follow. We'll meet Vanzell Jenkins, who grew up on Chicago's South Side with no connections to aviation, yet found his way into the cockpit and is now inspiring the next generation as an aviation educator and experimental aircraft builder. We'll also take you behind the scenes of airline cabin cleaning, revealing the meticulous process that ensures your flying experience is as pristine as possible. And in our STEM in Flight segment, we'll break the sound barrier, exploring the fascinating physics of supersonic and hypersonic flight technologies that are pushing the boundaries of how we'll travel tomorrow. Whether you're an aviation enthusiast or simply curious about the world above us, this episode offers insights into both the human and technical aspects of flight. The Future in Flight podcast is brought to you in partnership with AviNation, the leading youth aviation magazine dedicated to inspiring young minds, and Creative Relay Media, committed to sharing stories that matter. Stay with us as we go full throttle, heels to the floor. Welcome back to the Future in Flight podcast. When we think about aviation, our minds often drift to airline pilots in crisp uniforms or flight attendants moving through cabin aisles. But the world of flight extends far beyond what we see when boarding a commercial airplane. Today, we're exploring what it means to pioneer a path in aviation when you have no roadmap to follow, with someone who's doing exactly that. Vanzell Jenkins grew up on the south side of Chicago, far from the world of private planes and air shows. He didn't know pilots. He didn't have family in aviation. In fact, the first time he flew in a small aircraft, he was already in college studying to become a pilot himself. Today, Vanzell is an aviation educator, experimental aircraft builder, and aspiring airshow pilot who's creating content on his YouTube channel, Vanzair, to inspire the next generation. But how does someone with no connections to aviation find their way into the cockpit? It begins, as Vanzell explains, with curiosity.
So, aviation, the sparking interest is an interesting question for me because I didn't start aviation until I went to college. I knew nothing about the industry. I'm, a kid from the south side of Chicago. And I've always liked science, though. My brothers and I were the type to go to sleep watching Neil deGrasse Tyson Cosmos.
His scientific curiosity eventually led Vanzell to discover aerospace engineering in college. But unlike many of his classmates, he was starting from scratch.
So my background did not have any pilots, no flight attendants. I am pioneering aviation from my community. Nobody I knew was a pilot. I didn't know it was a career option. So everything I was doing was for the first time. When I first got into the classroom, I knew four things. The airplanes, there was a big one, small one. One had a propeller and one didn't. But I'm sitting next to people having conversations saying the 737, this is Boeing and Airbus. And I'm like, what? I don't know. So I did not grow up around it.
That lack of background knowledge meant Vanzell had to work harder than his peers. Some instructors even misinterpreted his learning curve as a lack of effort. Imagine sitting in a classroom where everyone seems to speak a language you're just beginning to learn. Boeing, Airbus, Cessna, terms that were completely foreign to Vanzell while seemingly obvious to others. This is the reality for many young people entering specialized fields without prior exposure. But Vanzell persisted. He stayed during summer breaks to continue his training, and with the unwavering support of his mother, he pushed through the challenges.
My mother is someone that supported all of her children. She had 6 children. And all of us are extra. So when it came to the different things that we wanted to do, she supported us. She did tell us that if you love what you do for work, it will not be work.
After completing his training at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Vanzell could have followed the traditional path towards becoming an airline pilot. Instead, he chose to become an aviation educator, sharing his knowledge with young people from backgrounds similar to his own. For 10 years, Vanzell has been introducing aviation to minority youth in the Chicago area and beyond. He's created a legacy of inspiration that extends far beyond the classroom.
Over my time frame, I had one of my students, my earlier students, became an instructor that has a student that became an instructor that has students. So I have a whole lineage of people that's inspired other people. And just seeing that aha moment of people do this, I can do this, and how they're navigating and understanding that they can be a pilot.
That aha moment Vanzell describes is powerful. It's the shift from seeing aviation as something other people do to recognizing it as something you too could do. It's a moment that changes trajectories and opens doors. But Vanzell isn't done charting new territory. In 2020, during what he calls the worldwide midlife crisis, he decided to build his own experimental aircraft. Building your own airplane might sound impossible, but in the experimental aircraft community, it's more accessible than you might think. Vanzell explains the difference between certified and experimental aircraft.
An experimental aircraft is, think of it more of a category. You have your certified aircraft and experimental. Experimental, but it's still safe. It's just by the name of the category. As the development of more technology comes out, it goes to experimental market first.
While building an aircraft comes with challenges, including what Vanzell calls analysis paralysis, that's overthinking to the point of inaction. It also offers benefits that buying a factory-built plane doesn't.
With an experimental kit build, the company has all the parts and they're all sized up together. I just put them together like Lego pieces. But I don't have to buy it all at once. I can buy one kit at a time. So I'm buying one kit, and then I finish that or get close to finish that, then buy the second kit. I buy all 4 kits, then add everything together.
Vanzell's ultimate goal isn't just to build and fly his own plane. He wants to become an aerobatic airshow pilot, performing complex maneuvers that inspire crowds below. It's a field with even fewer black pilots than commercial aviation. But inspiration isn't just about seeing people who look like you doing amazing things. It's also about understanding the breadth of possibilities within a field. As Vanzell tells young people interested in aviation,
so I will say that being a pilot, and if I'm going to be honest, right, being a pilot may not be for everybody, but there's something in aviation for everybody. There are several people that started off trying to do flight training, and they said, oh, they didn't really like this aspect, but they're like, hey, building a plane, that's my jam. That's where I'm going to go. Or they go into operations. They get to run airport operations is a whole plethora of different components. For one flight that happens, may have 2 pilots, but for one flight, there are 1,000 people, if not more, that make that one flight possible.
From fashion designers creating airline uniforms to architects designing airports, from meteorologists predicting weather patterns to engineers developing new aircraft, aviation offers countless paths. And for young people with limited resources who think aviation is out of reach, Vanzell offers this perspective.
It doesn't cost anything to learn. If you look at how much YouTube videos you could just download for free, all the different aviation videos, if you go into one video, just search up how do I become a pilot, or just aviation, and you just watch a couple videos, pick one thing that they said and say, what is that? And then you go from there.
This approach to learning, following one thread of curiosity to the next, reflects Vanzell's philosophy on pursuing dreams. It's not enough to simply have a dream. You need concrete goals to achieve it. When asked about the relationship between dreams and goals, Vanzell often quotes Denzel Washington.
Dreams without goals are just dreams. On the road to following your dreams, you have to apply discipline, but more importantly, consistency. Without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish.
And then playfully adds,
my name is Vanzell. I say it's like Denzel, but better.
This philosophy of consistent action towards a goal underpins Vanzell's personal motto, evolve the life you're in.
It's about understanding where you are. Your area and your environment doesn't define who you are. You define the environment you're in. Where you are now does not mean this is where you're going to stay. It does not mean you're doomed to stay there. You can evolve it into something better.
As we wrap up our time with Vanzell Jenkins, what stands out isn't just his journey from the south side of Chicago to the cockpit. It's his determination to bring others along with him, to show young people, especially those from underrepresented communities, that the sky isn't just for other people, it's for them too. Whether through his classroom teaching, his YouTube channel, or the air shows he hopes to perform in one day, Vanzell is opening doors and expanding horizons. Coming up, we'll take you behind the scenes for an eye-opening look at the meticulous process of airline interior cleaning, revealing the unsung heroes who ensure your cabin is pristine for every journey. Then buckle up for our STEM in Flight feature where we break the sound barrier comparing sonic versus hypersonic flight technologies that are pushing the boundaries of how we'll travel tomorrow. Stay with us as the Future in Flight podcast continues to explore the heights of aviation innovation right after this. Planning to sell your aircraft? Trust WhipAir's 60-plus years of sales expertise. We handle everything from listing to negotiation to closing, whether it's wheeled or floated. Cubcrafters, Cessna piston or turbine, Huskies, Pipers, we've got you covered. Our aviation experts understand your aircraft's value and will help you get the best price with minimal hassle. Let us handle the hard stuff. Find us at whipair.com, that's WIPAIRE.com, or call 651-451-1205. Today, we're tackling a subject that's likely on everyone's mind when they travel. Just how clean is the inside of the airplane you're flying on? Buckle up because this might change how you think about your next commercial flight. First off, let's talk about the reality check. There are no strict federal rules telling airlines exactly how to clean their planes. It's all up to the airlines, which means practices can vary. But don't worry, most airlines take this very seriously, especially post-COVID. Let's break it down. When you're boarding, the plane's probably just had a turnaround clean. That's where cleaning crews, often on a super tight schedule, focus on the high-traffic areas like tray tables, armrests, and yes, those airplane bathrooms. They're using disinfectants that can tackle everything from the common cold to more serious bugs. Airlines like Emirates and Qatar Airways have really stepped up their game over the past few years, using tech like UV light to make sure your flight is as clean as possible. And the cleaning isn't just about wiping down surfaces. Airlines are now winning awards for cleanliness. Cathay Pacific was named the world's cleanest airline for 2024 by International Air Transport Rating Organization Skytrax. That means when you fly with them, you're not just getting from A to B, you're traveling in one of the cleanest environments in the sky. Now, what about those blankets and pillows? They're not just thrown back into circulation. They're taken off, washed, and repackaged in plastic to make sure you're getting something fresh. And those cups and cutlery? They're washed in industrial dishwashers, not just rinsed off. But cleaning an airplane isn't just about what happens in between flights. There's this thing called a deep clean, which can take hours and involves scrubbing every nook and cranny, including ceilings and vents. This happens every few weeks or even after a plane's been sitting overnight. It's not all in the airlines, though. We can help too by making sure to toss out our trash and not leaving gum in the in-flight magazine. And consider carrying a small pack of disinfectant wipes to quickly sanitize your immediate seating area, either before or after a flight. Every little bit helps. So, what does the future hold for airplane hygiene? We're looking at smart tech like sensors for real-time cleanliness checks and even more eco-friendly cleaning solutions. Imagine a plane that's not just clean, but also green. That's going to wrap up our segment on how clean your next flight might be. Remember, while airlines do a lot, our contributions as passengers make a big difference too. Coming up, we're going throttle full forward with a look at supersonic and hypersonic flight on our STEM in Flight segment. This STEM in Flight segment is presented by TL Sport Aircraft. Buckle up for the Sparker, a sleek modern marvel hitting 170 knots with a 1,000-mile range. Picture this, a spacious cockpit, cutting-edge avionics, and the largest luggage compartment in its class. With carbon Kevlar safety and side-stick precision, its comfort meets Predator-level performance. Fly the future, the Sparker from TL Sport Aircraft. For today's STEM in Flight segment, we're cranking up the speed. We're diving into the fascinating world of supersonic and hypersonic flight. We're talking speeds that leave sound itself in the dust, literally. But how do planes break this sound barrier, and what happens when they push beyond it? Let's find out. So, what does it mean for an aircraft to be supersonic or hypersonic? It's all about speed, specifically in relation to the speed of sound. The speed of sound, or Mach 1, varies depending on air temperature and pressure, but is roughly 767 miles per hour at sea level. If a plane flies faster than Mach 1, it's considered supersonic. Think the Concorde or the new Boom XB-1, and of course military jets like the F-22 Raptor. Hypersonic flight, that's an entirely different league. Mach 5 and beyond, or more than 5 times the speed of sound. We're talking about experimental aircraft like the X-43A or missiles that travel faster than 3,800 miles per hour. Let's start with the science behind breaking the sound barrier. When an aircraft approaches the speed of sound, it starts to compress the air in front of it. This creates a buildup of pressure waves that form a barrier. Imagine a speedboat pushing through water. There's wake behind it, right? Well, a plane nearing Mach 1 creates a similar wake in the air. Once the plane pushes past Mach 1, those pressure waves merge into a single shock wave, which you hear as a sonic boom. It's not just a loud noise. It's a testament to the immense forces at play. But flying supersonically isn't just about going fast. It's about dealing with drag and heat. At supersonic speeds, drag, or air resistance, increases dramatically. Engineers combat this by designing sleek, narrow aircraft shapes with thin wings to minimize drag and help the plane slice through the air. Now let's kick it up a notch and talk about hypersonic flight. At these speeds, Mach 5 and beyond, the physics get even more intense. For one, the air around the aircraft doesn't just compress, it heats up. And I mean really heats up. Here's why. As the plane moves through the air at hypersonic speeds, the friction between the aircraft and the air molecules generates enormous heat. Temperatures can reach thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt ordinary materials. That's why hypersonic vehicles are built with advanced materials like ceramic composites or thermal protection systems to withstand the extreme heat. Another challenge? Shock waves. At hypersonic speeds, shock waves don't just form around the plane. They can interact with each other, creating complex flow patterns that can destabilize the aircraft. Engineers use powerful computer simulations to study these effects and design planes that can handle the ride. So, why do we even want to fly this fast? Supersonic and hypersonic flight has some incredible applications. For starters, supersonic jets could cut travel times in half. Imagine flying from New York to London in 3 hours instead of 6. Hypersonic flight? That's the frontier of space exploration and defense. Hypersonic vehicles could help us reach orbit more efficiently or even develop missiles that are nearly impossible to intercept. But speed comes at a cost, both literally and figuratively. Supersonic travel is expensive, and the sonic boom can be disruptive on the ground. That's why researchers are developing technologies to reduce noise and make supersonic travel more sustainable. Let's circle back to the STEM behind all this. Supersonic and hypersonic flight isn't just about pushing limits. It's about solving problems in aerodynamics, thermodynamics, and material science. Engineers and scientists work together to optimize designs, predict airflow patterns, and create heat-resistant materials. If you're fascinated by speed and want to be part of this cutting-edge field, there are tons of opportunities in aerospace engineering, physics, and even computer science. Who knows? You could be the one designing the next generation of hypersonic planes or spacecraft. That's it for today's STEM in Flight segment on the physics of supersonic and hypersonic flight. I hope it hasn't flown by too fast. As we bring this episode of the Future in Flight podcast in for a landing, let's reflect on the remarkable stories we've shared today. We've walked alongside Vanzell Jenkins as he carved his own path from Chicago's South Side to the cockpit, proving that with determination and consistent action, aviation is accessible even without traditional connections to the industry. His philosophy that your environment doesn't define who you are, you define the environment you're in, serves as a powerful reminder that the sky truly is for everyone. We pulled back the curtain on airline cabin cleanliness, giving you a new perspective on your next flight. And we explored the cutting-edge science behind supersonic and hypersonic travel, where engineers and scientists are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in aviation. If these stories of innovation, perseverance, and possibility have inspired you, I invite you to join our community of aviation enthusiasts. Subscribe to the Future in Flight podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Taking just a moment to leave a review helps our show tremendously. It allows more aviation dreamers to discover these conversations and continue expanding horizons. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your dreams in flight. We'll see you out there and up there.